An American fighter jet is falling out of the sky over the Iranian desert. 2 crew members eject into hostile territory. In that instant, the most powerful military on Earth drops everything and launches one of the most extraordinary search and rescue operations in modern history to bring them home. This is not a Hollywood script. This is the real story of the F-15E Strike Eagle call sign, Dude 44, shot down over Iran on April 3rd, 2026. A story of survival under fire, of deception, of courage, and of the brutal truth hidden inside the phrase air superiority. Because when the United States Air Force says it controls the sky, this is what that claim looks like when it is tested in the worst possible place. What happened next was not clean, it was not simple, and it was not without cost. It was a rescue mission launched into enemy territory at the edge of chaos, with 2 Americans on the ground and no margin for failure. It was early morning on April 3rd when an F-15E Strike Eagle, call sign Dude 44, went down over southwestern Iran. At first, Iranian state media ran wild with it. Press TV published images of debris and declared they had shot down an F-35, America's most advanced stealth fighter. That was already a major red flag. Look at the debris closely, and what you actually see is consistent with an F-15E Strike Eagle, a twin-engine, 2-seat, multi-role fighter based out of RAF Lakenheath in the United Kingdom, home of the U.S. Air Force's 48th Fighter Wing. According to NBC News, analysts and a former Australian Air Force officer confirmed the aircraft almost certainly belonged to that wing. Why does that matter? Because Iran almost immediately overplayed its hand. Iranian state media insisted they had shot down an F-35. That is a single-seat aircraft. An F-15E, by contrast, carries 2 crew members, a pilot and a weapons systems officer, or WSO. By misidentifying the jet, Iran unknowingly revealed gaps in their own intelligence. And as we'll see later in this story, that mistake would have consequences. Now, U.S. Central Command said nothing at first, and there is a very good reason for that. Operational security. Both crew members had ejected over hostile Iranian territory. A rescue operation was already being launched. The last thing you want to do is announce details of a rescue mission to the enemy while your people are still on the ground. This is the right moment to talk about something that a lot of people got wrong in the hours after the shootdown, the question that exploded across social media. How does a U.S. jet get taken down if the United States has air superiority? The answer lies in how the Air Force actually defines that term. There is a concept in Air Force doctrine called the control of air continuum. It lays out several levels of airspace control. The first is air parity. Neither side dominates the sky, but both can operate in it. The second level is air superiority, and this is the key phrase. One side can carry out operations without prohibitive interference. Those are the exact words from doctrine. That does not mean zero risk. It does not mean the enemy cannot shoot back. It means the adversary cannot prevent your operations. The third level, air supremacy, is where the enemy provides essentially zero meaningful interference. The United States has never claimed supremacy over Iran's airspace. What they have claimed consistently is superiority. Just 2 days before the F-15E was shot down, General Dan Kane, chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, appeared on camera and confirmed, quote, "Given the increase in air superiority, we've successfully started to conduct the first overland B-52 missions." He used the word superiority, not supremacy, not dominance. That is a precise, deliberate choice of language. And here is what makes that relevant to our story. According to reporting by Axios, later confirmed by President Trump himself at a White House press conference on April 6th, the F-15E was taken down by MANPADS, a man-portable air defense system, a shoulder-fired, heat-seeking missile. Trump described it plainly. They got lucky, he said. The missile, quote, got sucked in right by the engine. A MANPADS operates at very low altitudes, typically below 15,000 feet. That means the F-15E was flying well within its engagement envelope, suggesting the crew was conducting a close-in mission, likely targeting specific infrastructure or mobile assets deep inside Iranian territory. That is not a failure of air superiority. That is the inherent risk of flying combat missions against a determined enemy, even a degraded one. Iran has been systematically bombarded for over a month. Their radar networks, missile batteries, and air defense command centers have taken devastating strikes under Operation Epic Fury. But asymmetric warfare persists. A single soldier in a field with a shoulder-fired missile is not a radar network. You cannot bomb it into non-existence from 30,000 feet. This is the uncomfortable truth about modern air campaigns. Even when you destroy 11,000 targets in 30 days, as General Kane confirmed, a rifleman with a heat seeker can still change the course of a day. Now, let's talk about the two men who ejected from that aircraft. The Air Force calls them isolated personnel. Their call signs: Dude 44 Alpha, the pilot, and Dude 44 Bravo, the weapons systems officer, a colonel. Both ejected safely and both critically activated their survival training. All U.S. aircrew are trained in SEER: survival, evasion, resistance, and escape. Step 1, eject and survive the landing. Step 2, move to a secure position and evade capture. Step 3, use encrypted radio to transmit location back to friendly forces. According to Israeli media reports relayed to American outlets, both crew members radioed in their locations. That was extremely good news. It meant they had survived the ejection, were coherent, and their training protocol was holding. The rescue mission launched almost immediately. And here's where this story transforms from a crisis into something genuinely extraordinary. The lead element was the Air Force Personnel Recovery Community, the Pararescue Jumpers, or PJs, whose motto is, "That others may live." These are specialized operators trained in high-angle rescue, battlefield medicine, and direct action. They do not treat this as just a job. They call it a no-fail mission. They will give their lives to bring Americans home. Accompanying them was a security element drawn from the broader special operations community. Navy SEALs, Green Berets, MARSOC operators, and elements from the 160th Special Operations Aviation Regiment, the so-called Night Stalkers, who provide the helicopter airframes. The first phase of the operation, recovering the pilot, was completed during daylight hours on Friday, April 3rd, in what CENTCOM later confirmed was a 7-hour operation. According to Defense Scoop, it deployed 21 aircraft flying at very low altitude through active hostile airspace. An HH-60 Jolly Green II search and rescue helicopter executed the extraction, flanked by A-10 Thunderbolts providing close air support and HC-130 Combat King II aircraft managing communications and refueling. But the weapons systems officer, Dude 44 Bravo, was a different story. During the first operation, an A-10 Warthog supporting the rescue mission was struck by Iranian fire. This is the aircraft we saw footage of an IRGC member on the ground shooting at it with a rifle while the helicopter and the A-10 pressed on without returning fire. The priority was finding the crew member, not engaging every threat. The A-10 pilot continued the mission, fought through the damage, flew the aircraft into another country's airspace, and then made the decision to eject when it became clear the aircraft could not land safely. That pilot recovered quickly and is reported to be doing fine. 2 Black Hawk helicopters were also hit and damaged during the Friday operation. Both made it back. The WSO, meanwhile, had moved. And that is where the Zagros Mountains became both the enemy's challenge and the airmen's salvation. According to reporting by Time magazine and confirmed by senior administration officials at the April 6th White House briefing, the colonel, the WSO, had ejected sustained injuries consistent with the physical trauma of a high-speed ejection and then began climbing. He moved into a crevice in the mountainous terrain of southwestern Iran in the Kogiluye and Boyar Ahmad province. He bled, he hid, he waited, and he transmitted. At one point, U.S. officials grew concerned when they intercepted a message from the airmen that read simply, "God is good." According to CBS News, the phrasing initially raised alarm that he had been captured and was being forced to speak under duress. It turned out to be exactly what it sounded like. A man alone on a mountainside, wounded, grateful to still be alive. Iran, meanwhile, was fully mobilized. The IRGC had dispatched thousands of personnel to find him. Iranian state media was offering a bounty, the equivalent of $60,000, to any local who could help locate and turn over the entire region was being cordoned off, and the Iranian government was loudly claiming, with zero proof, that they had already captured both crew members. That lie mattered because as long as Iran was making claims without evidence, it confirmed what the U.S. was hoping. The WSO was still free. We want to take a quick break to say, if you are finding this analysis valuable and you are not yet subscribed, now is the moment. Hit subscribe, turn on the bell. We are on this story as it develops, and we will not stop until you have the complete picture. Now, back to the mountain. The CIA was already involved before the second rescue was launched. According to multiple senior administration officials speaking to CBS News, the agency initiated a deception operation. They spread information inside Iran using human assets and what officials described as exquisite technical capabilities that U.S. forces had already located the WSO and were moving him on the ground toward extraction. This was fabricated. It was designed to pull Iranian search forces away from his actual location. While the deception was running, CIA assets tracked the airman to his exact position in the mountain crevice and transmitted those coordinates to the Pentagon and the White House. President Trump then ordered an immediate rescue mission. What followed was, by any measure, staggering in scale. According to Defense Scoop and confirmed by General Kane and President Trump at the Monday briefing, the second rescue mission involved 155 aircraft. That includes 4 bombers, 64 fighters, 48 refueling tankers, 13 dedicated rescue aircraft, tactical drones, and support platforms. U.S. aircraft were dispatched to 7 different locations across Iran simultaneously, not because the WSO was in 7 places, but to confuse Iranian forces and make it impossible to predict where the real extraction was happening. Trump described it plainly at the press conference. We wanted to have them think he was in a different location because they had a vast military force out there. Special Operations Forces established a forward arming and refueling point, a FARP, in a flat stretch of the mountainous region, flying in multiple helicopters and fixed-wing aircraft. At some point during the operation, 2 C-130 Hercules transport aircraft became stuck on the improvised airfield and could not depart. Rather than allow them to fall into Iranian hands, American forces destroyed them on the ground. Iran's IRGC later released images showing the burned wreckage along with what appeared to be the remains of 4 MH-6 and AH-6 Special Operations helicopters. Those are real losses. The U.S. military is not pretending otherwise, but they are also the price of a no-fail mission. Navy SEALs ultimately reached the WSO in the mountain crevice. He was extracted, he was alive, he was seriously wounded. Early Sunday morning, Easter Sunday, April 5th, 2026, President Trump posted on Truth Social. The message was 3 words long: "We got him." He followed it with a statement to NBC News calling it an Easter miracle. And then characteristically, he added, the Iranians thought they had him, but it wasn't even close. Trump's Monday briefing clarified the full picture. General Kane described the operation as one of the most complex and challenging missions in the history of U.S. Special Operations. He confirmed no American service members were killed. The WSO, a highly respected colonel, had sustained injuries but would survive. According to the Wikipedia operational summary, Iranian sources acknowledged 3 IRGC members were killed during the rescue, including Brigadier General Masoud Zar, commander of the Iranian Army Air Defense College, who was reportedly killed in a U.S. airstrike near Mahyar, Isfahan during the operation. Now, let's step back and absorb what this moment actually means. Some analysts are framing the F-15E shootdown as a failure. And on one level, it is a data point that demands honest assessment. According to NBC News, the incident, the first confirmed loss of a crewed U.S. aircraft to Iranian fire since the war began on February 28th, dispels the most simplistic version of the narrative that the U.S. has total unchallenged control over Iranian airspace. As former CENTCOM commander Kenneth McKenzie Jr. told reporters, such losses are, in his words, an acceptable consequence of sustained combat operations. No war is without friction. No air superiority, no matter how overwhelming, eliminates risk entirely. But here is the other side of that equation. Iran deployed thousands of personnel. They offered cash bounties. They claimed victory repeatedly and publicly. They could not catch one wounded colonel who survived nearly 50 hours in a mountain crevice while the most powerful military in the world came to get him. The U.S., meanwhile, deployed 155 aircraft, launched a CIA deception operation, established a forward operating base in hostile territory, and extracted both crew members without a single American fatality. That is not a narrative of weakness. That is a demonstration of capability that no other military on Earth could replicate. There is one more thread in this story that deserves attention, and it takes us briefly away from the mountain. During the same period as the rescue operation, news emerged that a niece of Qasem Soleimani, the IRGC commander, assassinated in 2020, had been living in the United States on a green card on the path towards citizenship. She became publicly outspoken in support of the IRGC and the Islamic Republic. Her green card has since been rescinded, and she is being deported. This follows the earlier revelation reported during the opening weeks of the war that Ali Larijani's daughter was residing in the United States even as Iran was crushing protesters in the streets. The pattern is stark. The families of Iran's ruling class seek refuge in the country their government calls the Great Satan. Their children live here, their assets sit here. The hypocrisy is not subtle. Now, where does this leave the broader war? Operation Epic Fury has now passed the 40-day mark. The U.S. and Israel launched the campaign on February 28, 2026, with surprise strikes that killed Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei. Since then, according to the human rights group RANA, over 3,500 people have been killed inside Iran, including more than 1,600 civilians and at least 244 children. 13 American service members have been killed. Iran continues to fire missiles into the region. A projectile struck a residential building in Haifa, Israel, on Sunday, injuring 4 people just minutes after the rescue was confirmed. The Strait of Hormuz remains a pressure point. Trump has openly threatened escalation if Iran does not reopen the vital waterway. Negotiations are a matter of dispute. Trump says talks are ongoing. Iran says there are no direct negotiations. Both things may be simultaneously true, playing out through intermediaries in ways neither side will publicly acknowledge. The F-15 rescue is, in this context, a moment of clarity. War is not a controlled laboratory. It is friction, loss, improvisation, and the relentless test of institutional will. The United States lost an aircraft and nearly lost 2 men. It then committed an extraordinary level of national resources, intelligence, special operations, air power, and deception to bring them home. Whether that signals strength or overextension depends entirely on what happens next. What we know is this: the WSO is alive. He climbed a mountain with injuries. He followed his training. And when the moment came, his country came for him. That is the story of Dude 44 Bravo. That is where we are in the Iran war tonight. If you want to understand how Iran got to this moment, the 1979 revolution, the Qajar dynasty, the century of decisions that shaped the Islamic Republic into what it is today, we have a multi-part deep dive available right now. Click the link in the description or tap the video on your screen. It will give you the full historical context you need to understand everything that is unfolding. Subscribe, turn on notifications, and we will see you in the next